morning. Welcome back to the Marketing Thread. I am your host, Todd Schnick, joined by my friend and colleague, Carol Morgan. Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Good morning. I am good, and I'm excited about planning for the new year and New Year's resolutions.
Well, it's going to be a great conversation. This is always a good time of year to kind of reset, rethink, change mindsets, kind of reprioritize. It's a good time to have the conversation we're about to have. But before we get to this subject around our resolutions coming into 2022, take a second and remind everyone what the Marketing Thread's all about.
Well, the Marketing Thread is a series of short, snackable videos that we release monthly that discuss current marketing trends. The goal is to provide ideas that can be easily added into a marketing plan or easily implemented that are highly effective. So this collection of videos addresses all sorts of fun topics such as social media best practices, generation-based marketing, media relations, blogging. I think we've talked about Facebook ads. So lots of different just, fun, short marketing tips designed to promote successful marketing strategies.
Yeah, as I've said before, it's a great series. And although I thought I knew everything, I've always learned something with this content. So it's been great stuff. So, we're going to talk today about resolutions. And, I there's this quote that I love. It's every passing minute is a chance to turn it all around, but you can, the idea there is that you can decide right now, no matter when, to rethink and redo things. But no, the turn of the year is always this wonderfully clean opportunity to kind of take a fresh look. So this is an opportune time to look at some things and reassess and all that. So kick us off. Where are we going next?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's a great time to assess. And I had a really hard time whittling this down, but I think we've got 10 different things that you should look at as a business, as a person in business. So the first is prioritize. It isn't all fire. And I think that's something that we all kind of lose sight of is, prioritize, set a calendar, figure out what you really do need to do first and, work through things in a logical fashion, a logical way.
Yeah. I think the successful person, whether they're in business or living a successful life, is someone who sets the right priorities. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking in the mirror when I say this, but a lot of people stink at this. And, I'm one of them, and when I step back and set some priorities, and then I have a clearer idea of what we all know, if you think about it, we all know what the key thing we should be focusing our attention on is.
Right.
And we don't take the time, to figure out what that really is. And then, the second part of this is executing. All right. Once you know what you should be focusing on, do it. But you can't do that until you actually set those priorities.
Well, and once you know what you're focusing on, it makes it easier to say no to the things you shouldn't be focusing on.
Exactly.
Not everything is a to-do. Some things you actually should not do to keep your priorities in line and keep your priorities straight.
Yeah. Well, there's the joke that people say you also need to create that to-don't list.
To-don't list. Exactly.
Same thing with priorities. I mean, what should you not be focusing on? What is distracting? What is, use that 80-20 principle, figure out, what one thing I can focus on is going to yield a lot of benefit.
Right. And, sometimes I think you may find out that something that's not a priority is taking up 80% of your time. So we don't want to do that. So prioritize. And then, update your marketing plan because your priorities are going to fall into this too. So, what do you have planned already for 2022? Do you have webinars and trade shows, sponsorships, conferences? Do you already have some promotions that you're planning to do? Think about all of those things and then think about what worked last year and what didn't. Where did your marketing budget, where was it the most effective? What worked? Was it website? Was it, email, social, pay-per-click? And then look at, are there any new strategies you want to test? Because when you update your marketing plan and create the budget, all of this needs to flow through to that. So, figure
I could
out
make
where
the
you're going to
case.
spend that.
This is the same thing as priorities.
Yes, absolutely.
Is focusing on the marketing plan, what worked last year, and so what do I need to make mid-course corrections on to focus more on the things that are yielding the results we want. This is one of those examples. As a marketing strategist, you should have already done this in terms of looking ahead to the new year. But the next best time to update the marketing plan is right now.
Right now. Yep. Well, and it's interesting. The one thing that we've seen with COVID the past couple of years is that people really aren't doing as good of a job as planning as far in advance as we used to do. It used to be that we'd start talking about marketing for the next year and, maybe even July or August of the year prior. And now it just seems to get later and later and later and later. So, and I think that's just part of that uncertainty. So I suspect as we reach a new normal, which, maybe we're in, maybe this is the new normal, that, we'll start to be able to do a little bit better with planning.
Well, and like you said, with priorities, knowing what to say no to. Same thing with updating the marketing plan. I mean, what is not working that we need to just cut away and then focus on the things that are yielding the right benefits. So,
absolutely,
another value to this process.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things that I would say that people need to focus more on, and you all hear me say this all the time, is blogging. So start a blog or update your blog, whichever one is more appropriate and applicable. Is your blog non-existent? Is it stale? It's a great cost-effective way to add fresh content to your website. Huge for SEO purposes because it keeps the search engines coming back, which means you capture more site traffic, more traffic than your competitor, which is big. It also positions your company as an expert and provides material for potential customers and those raving fans to keep coming back and reading. And seeing what's going on. And then, finally, your blog is your syndication machine. So it's how you're going to, help syndicate out there onto social media. You can use your blog on all those different social media sites. So, lots of good reasons to blog. And again, Todd, I see that companies just don't do it.
When I reviewed your notes leading into this conversation and saw the 10 slides, there were two that made me do a happy dance. And this was one of them, because this is the thing that I'm sure most people weren't expecting when they said, here are 10 steps in terms of thinking about your resolutions for business for the next year. It was a blogging. What? But when you drill down and understand what you're really saying here, and the benefit and the value to your organization, your marketing, it's still, in my view, the foundation of that marketing plan. And because when you are in the process of blogging, we're not saying, are you just this little blogger that everyone's thinking of right now? I'm talking about the discipline behind blogging is the real true power here. And it stems from your blog, stems a lot of what you're doing with your marketing. So, I mean, this is foundational. I mean, this is essential. And I bet you half the people listening have a blog as part of their marketing, but they're not focusing on it and leveraging it to its full capacity and thus missing out on all the possibilities with it. So it's always good to, at the turn of the year, to smack someone in the forehead and remind them about the power
of the blog
does for this. So great reminder.
Yeah. The next one's probably a good reminder too. Hey, have and use social media. Social media is invaluable to business. Make a resolution to use it more and use it more effectively. It's a great way to engage with potential customers, to interact with current customers, to interact with those raving fans. I guess the big thing I see, Todd, that people forget to do is they use it kind of as that marketing push. But then when people ask questions, where are they, right? So you got to answer questions. You can't just push your marketing content out there. Be there to respond when people ask questions, or even if they just say they like it, still it's a chance to engage them in conversation.
Engagement, there's the key word. And you're looking at someone here who pinballs all over the map on his leverage of social media, and 2021 was a year where I really went through a big rethink on how I leveraged all these social media platforms. And I've been, heck, you and I have been on these platforms and
Oh my gosh, forever.
for over a decade now. And
Decades.
you know, you still don't know everything. You still got to figure it out. Still got to adjust and evolve. The way people leverage these things changes with time, and you have to evolve with it. And so again, you would think, well, duh, I need to be using social media, but you need to be rethinking strategically how you're leveraging these platforms. And this again is a good time to kind of rethink and evolve.
You know, and part of that strategy is you don't need to be everywhere all the time. You can have different strategies for different sites, different audiences for different sites. In fact, you know, if depending on your business type, you might not even use some of the sites. For instance, I have a B2B client that isn't even on Facebook. Oh, shock, right? But we do all of his work on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is phenomenal for his business. So, you know, if you're consumer facing, obviously you've got to be on Facebook. It's that 800-pound gorilla. And you probably need to be on Instagram too. But if you're strictly B2B, you might be able to skip those consumer sites and just really focus on a strong LinkedIn presence.
Well, I have to be honest with you. You know the love-hate relationship I personally have had with Facebook over the years. And just when I think, just don't need to be there, I just look back at several past episodes from the marketing thread.
Right.
And the firepower behind Facebook's tools that you guys have done so great at educating all of us on remind you there's a reason why this is an effective tool and why you need to invest time there. But you have to implement the right strategy. And that's what I think you're really saying here is be cognizant of what the right thing I need to be doing here on this platform or any platform. That's what I think you're really calling for here is assess the tool and leverage it in the best way. You don't need to do the same thing on every platform. No, that's a mistake I've made over the years.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the same. You know, you can put some thought behind it. And then, you know, advertising. Don't forget Facebook advertising. You know, don't forget LinkedIn advertising. Golly, YouTube advertising is even, you know, effective. So that's a big part of this social network is the fact that you can advertise. So don't forget that part.
Yeah, there's a reason these are billion, sometimes $1 trillion companies. I mean, because that process works when you do it right.
Right. Well, then the next thing is network, which, you know, is something you can do on social networking sites, but doing it in person, you know, it can be time consuming. It's a little bit more of a long game, but try to attend one networking event a month. You can meet other business owners, find new opportunities, meet potential clients, you know, find new partners. You know, we don't call vendors. They're our partners. So find those partners that help your company be more effective. You can even make a new friend. So, you know, don't forget this in-person human part of it.
Still, the most effective way for me to talk and grow my business is face-to-face interactions.
Yeah.
It always has been and always will be. And I think it's even more important now that we have realized we took human interaction for granted for so long, especially in light of these last crazy 2 years with the pandemic and we've getting back into this mode of going to events and seeing has been a wonderful thing, and I'm trying to recognize and celebrate it. But I also remembered how impactful it is in terms of your business and connecting to people, and there's no better way. There just is no better way.
Well, you know, and the other thing I think that you're good about, Todd, and that I think I've gotten better about, maybe this is one of the things I've learned from you over the years is, you know, once you meet them in person, you can continue that relationship, you know, go back to the office and send them an invitation to connect with you on LinkedIn, thank them for meeting you. You know, it gives them so maybe they're not going to take that business card you just handed them and put it into their Outlook or into whatever, you know, system they use for keeping up with people. But chances are they will connect with you on LinkedIn. And then, you know, when they think, oh, I'm looking for, you know, a marketing firm or somebody to produce my podcast or whatever it is they're looking for, they'll think of you and go find you on LinkedIn. So just, an easy way to extend that.
Connecting face to face is that springboard to other bigger things. And
Yep.
when you've gotten to know someone and you've looked them in the eye and you've shaken their hand and maybe you've shared a cocktail with them, boom, it's your relationship at an entirely different level. And you can, how shall I say this? You can get away with things that you couldn't with a cold digital connection.
Exactly.
You can ask for things, you can suggest things, you can push things that you couldn't otherwise do.
Right.
Don't overdo that, but forging that relationship.
Well, and then they have that personality that goes behind it. So,
how
they think,
helpful is that to know someone
exactly.
and the little quirks and the things they're interested in, and the kind of things that you learn in an actual real conversation versus tweeting.
It's hey, don't diss Twitter. I love that
vibe.
one.
It's a different vibe altogether great.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are obvious, but refocusing on networking is a great suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah. And then listen to your customers. I would argue that customer service matters more now than ever because it is severely lacking in most places. Think of, the customer service at your favorite restaurant, which may be good or may be bad, or it may just be that they're so understaffed that, you just don't even know, or trying to get an appointment with the doctor and trying to get through that, switchboard. And it's just deplorable right now how long things take. And then, the customer's taken for granted because to some extent you don't feel like they have a choice. Well, they have to come shop with me. There's nothing else. Or they're going to come eat here and they're going to wait because everyone else is closed or whatever that is. But whatever your business is, remember that people share the really bad experiences they have way more often than the good ones. So, identify those holes in your customer service and outline how to avoid them. And, highlight what went well and, again, magnify what went well so that 2022 is a better experience for your customers.
Well, people in business and certainly people in marketing are always thinking about radical change. And I got to leverage the latest technology and the new tools and the latest hacks. And I'm always got to be on ahead of the curve and chasing the new big thing. When it's the fundamentals that still matter. And to your point, to your critically important point of, especially in this day and age, as we go through a major readjustment to how we do business as a result of this pandemic and how that's changed things. Listening to your customer is still the most important thing. And we still really stink at that for the most part. And we try to rely on tools to do that when that's just not feasible. And so I keep saying how critically important all these questions you're raising are in this conversation, but this is another good time to kind of reassess how are we doing this. It's harder now because of how the economy has changed and how we approach business is changing because of how our culture is changing and media is changing and government's changing. I mean, this is a big time of change, but this is a fundamental that can't. And as a result of all this change, it's suffering customer service, customer outreach. But just the very basic of what you say here, actually listen to what your customers say. There's no better research to do than actually hear.
Right.
They're telling you. And if you're listening, they're telling you things by their actions, by what they're not saying.
Right.
Are we really listening to the customer?
Not always. Most of the time we're listening, to whatever's going on in our headspace. So this is something we can do better. Wow. And this is one I know we can all learn to do better. Learn to delegate. If you only have one resolution this year, make this it. As a business owner, or anyone in business, there's probably 1,000 things on your to-do list. That doesn't mean you have to do them yourself. So learn to delegate and teach others how to do them. I mean, I know a lot of times I see in my business that sometimes it's just easier for me to do it than, to correct somebody's mistakes or to properly train them. So, think about properly training them. Maybe it's somebody in-house, maybe it's somebody out of house. Maybe you need to hire an agency to help you catch up on your digital marketing. Has my little soft sell, Todd. How was that? Or
Smooth.
there you go. Or maybe it's that you need to hire, a cleaning service, or you need to hire, somebody to come shred those papers. Make a list of those tasks that need to get done, especially the ones you find a hard time getting to. And then, hire somebody to help you get that done and train them properly.
Well, if you're complaining that you're too busy and don't have enough time, it's because you're not delegating or not delegating effectively. And
right.
What you said a second ago, that's just easier if I do it, is the lazy way out. You're not willing to do. Yeah, there will be some front end work to teach someone how to do something the way you want it to be done. How to educate them. All right. So he obviously agrees with the delegation thing.
Ben wants you to delegate to him. He says delegate something fun to him because they bark about it.
Well, it just emphasizes the point that delegation is a critical tool. Most managers stink at it and they take on too much, and then they're not free to focus on the big picture. They can't go backwards and look at all the slides that we've already gone through and all the big questions we've asked you to focus on. If you're too busy, you don't have time to really think on those things. So learning to delegate enables you and frees up your time to focus on those questions that we've been asking so far in this conversation. And the reason you don't spend time on thinking on those things deeply and carefully is because you're overwhelmed with minutia. That's distracting you from the big picture.
It really plays into work-life balance too. If you're not delegating and you're not getting it all done and you're a workaholic, then you don't have any work-life balance. So you might need to learn to delegate at home too. So anyway, learn to delegate. Then I like this one too. This kind of goes along with everything else. Clean house. Get rid of what doesn't work. So whether that's, a printer that doesn't work, or whether that's boxes and boxes that are in your way that keep the office from, kind of having that nice Zen karma feeling, whatever it is, say goodbye to that. In some cases, maybe it's that toxic employee that, you just don't know, how to handle or what to do about. Maybe it's time. Maybe 2022 is a year for you just to cut bait and go find somebody new. But if it doesn't work, if you've got a process that doesn't work, if you have a person who's not working, if you have a office chair that you hate that makes your back hurt, whatever it is, get rid of it and move on, move forward. Say goodbye to the old and out with the old, in with the new. It's a new year.
It is a great time to do this very thing that you're suggesting. And to reiterate what you said, it's not just physically cleaning junk out of the office. It's clearing mental clutter.
Correct.
It's clearing tactical clutter. Are there things that you're doing that aren't working for the business? Get rid of them.
Right.
Or completely overhaul them. Delegating is a version of this. Removing things from your plate to someone who's better tasked, better able to handle those things. I mean, it's not just cleaning the office and having a clean desk when you come back on January 2nd. I mean, there's a lot to this, and we read between the lines. We've been talking about this through this whole conversation.
Right.
is there's a lot of things that are taking up too much time or are simply not working. Don't be afraid to let them go. You can always fold it back in a better way if you ultimately determine it's something you need to do. But if it's not working for you right now, get rid of it. Clean it up.
Get rid of it. And, maybe that's even a client that, just isn't a fit. And that's kind of a nice segue to this next slide. Maybe that client isn't a fit for your company culture. So, looking at that too, it's not always just things internal to your organization because, that affects it too. But, prioritize that company culture. Focusing on building a good company culture is a great resolution for 2022. You want your employees to feel engaged and satisfied and inspired and like they really make a difference. And having that company culture, and again, these, hybrid work and people in the office and out of the office, I know it can be harder to do remotely, but it is possible. Make them feel appreciated and respected and like their career development. Career development is important. It's important to them. It should be important to you too. So that will help, boost that engagement and loyalty.
Yeah. we're not talking about bringing in a foosball table and having and offering free snacks here. We're talking about your people
Right.
and our conversation around delegating is part of this. And part of the
Correct.
reason someone doesn't feel connected or engaged in the company is that you've not given them any responsibility. And so delegating can be a part of that, and empowering them to delegate their tasks to a way to do it better. Don't say, well, I'm going to have you do it, but you're the only one that can do it. If they can figure out a way to delegate it or figure out a different way to do it, that's okay too. That gets them, that makes them more engaged in the organization and the mission and purpose. And so, the job of a leader is to create more leaders.
Correct.
And
if you replace yourself.
If you look at your team and your people as cogs in a wheel and they have a job to do and that's it, then you're doing it wrong. You need to be encouraging them. You need to be training them. Training is not an onboarding thing when you bring on someone. That's an ongoing thing. That continuing education. Is there a risk that they may use their newfound skills and go somewhere else? Yeah. That's also
there's always that risk. Though,
that's how the economy works. That's how human nature works.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are making people better and encouraging them and empowering them to do big things, that's going to strengthen your culture, and they're going to be less likely to leave because of the freedom and the power they have within your organization. So
yeah, empower. I like that word. That's a good one, Todd. And all this ties back in. Cleaning house ties back into, this is my favorite one. And I did this one, for you. You do this better than anyone I know, inbox 0. So having inbox 0, or for me, inbox 50 makes me happy, but it's just so hard. So I know I try very diligently. We'll hear what your tactic is after I share mine. But, I try as emails come in to, flag them if there's something that I really need to go back and find immediately, delete them if it's just something I'm going to scan and delete. File them if I need to file them. And then, sometimes the ones I flag are the ones I need to act on that might take a little bit longer. But gosh, sometimes the struggle is just so real to get that inbox down to something that's manageable. And I know you do this very well. So share with us your phenomenal secret to inbox 0, Todd.
Well, this was the other slide in the deck that made me do the happy dance. And I want you to think about inbox 0 in 2 ways. Yes, I think there is value in having a clean and simple inbox.
Yes.
The actual emails that you get, if you have 1,000 emails, it's a stressor. It causes you anxiety, and it makes it more complicated to focus on the big questions that we've been asking you to think about previous in this conversation. So there's real value. It's like at the end of the day, you should clean off your desktop.
Right.
There's just something powerful about getting in the next morning and having a clean organization, clean station to focus on your work. Same thing with an inbox. If your inbox is always cluttered, it's a distraction. But I want you to think of the conceptual idea of what an inbox 0 really represents. It's everything we've talked about. It's delegating.
Mm-hmm.
It's cleaning house. It's prioritizing. If those principles all apply to removing the clutter and the distractions, so you can focus on the big things, on the culture, on your clients, on the big questions that you have been asking us to think about through this resolutions conversation. The idea, the discipline that you build and you create and the skills that you hone to have a clean, simple inbox. Those concepts apply to everything, and what we're talking about here is freeing up your ability to focus on the big issues and not be distracted and stressed by the small things that right. clutter and distract. And to me, inbox 0 is kind of a symbolic. If you have the discipline to have a simple, clean inbox, you probably are freed up to focus on the big issues, and that's, to me, that's what it really represents.
I think that's fantastic. And it's absolutely right. You're right. It brings it all home. It's kind of full circle for everything we've been talking about. So, so these are kind of my goals for next year. We'll see where we land with them. But It's always good to have resolutions. And now they're all written down because they're all written down in this slide deck. And we all know that, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So if you've got resolutions, then put a plan in place to achieve those resolutions.
These are all big questions that you should be focusing on year round. There's never a bad time to think about it and make a change. But the turn of the calendar is obviously a really great time because everyone's kind of in this rethink, refresh mindset.
Right.
And it's a good time to do these kinds of things and think on these big picture items. But great stuff. All great points. Carol, should anyone have any questions on any of this stuff? For instance, blog, really? Should be blogging. How do they find you so they can go deep on some of this?
If they need help delegating some of these marketing tasks, or they just need, a partner in these marketing tasks because they don't have the expertise, we'd love to help with your blogging, your social media, your email marketing, any of those needs. You can reach me at denimmarketing.com. My email is carol@denimmarketing.com, and you can always reach us by phone, 770-383-3360.
Outstanding. All right. I don't know if I should say that. I think we have a lot more stuff we could talk about over time. So let's not tie this up. So although we're turning the calendar, this is a great way to kind of reset and rethink, looking ahead. So good stuff. On behalf of my co-host, Carol Morgan, I am Todd Schnick. We'll see you again on The Marketing Thread.